Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
It all comes down to this, a championship decider on one of the tightest and twisting circuits on the North American schedule, Mid-Ohio, a long-time bastion of IndyCar, but now we set loose the GT3 Trophy Series here to decide who will take top honors in the Pro and in the AM categories. Hello everyone, my name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Andy Thompson with our director and producer Jamie Fluke behind the scenes. And Andy, I know this is one that I have had circled the entire year long to be able to come to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course to see how these cars are going to handle what can only be described as a very technical and difficult circuit.
Yeah, good evening, DJ. Good evening, viewers. I think DJ is now the kid in the sweetie shop here at Mid-Ohio. Been looking forward to this all season. And to be honest, it's what a climax of a track to finish this season on. You know, we've had the spills and thrills of 11 rounds before this, but a lot of the championships, quite a few of them, come down to this final round. And as you said, DJ, a very tricky track to finish the season on. You know, it's a story of two halves, this track. You've got the front half round turn 1 all the way to turn 4 that's got some really decent straights on to make the good overtaking moves, but then you got 4 to 13th, a really tricky undulating part of the track where, you know, car position is going to be absolutely vital.
Yeah, exactly, and don't forget that those elevation changes around here can really throw you off if you're not careful, as we see the checkered flag fly here on practice and set the drivers loose for a 10-minute qualifying session as everyone gets themselves out there. But before we get into that, let's run you through the points for the day, because as we said, this is a very, very close running. There you can see up at the top, that's the one we're all talking about. 19 points separating Christoph Hermano from Niels Eriks Isaacson. That is going to be the conversation to be had. Also, some very close battles a little bit further in the back. Kjetil Larson, Tom Dadswell. Watch out for them. Watch out for those positionings. Those could really determine some of the order going forward and how things will finish themselves out. It's a little bit more spaced out down in the Pro-Am standings with Jacob Behrens, frankly, running away with the championship here. He has about a 102-point lead over his closest competitor there of Martin Deckens, and Deckens holding on to about a 200-point advantage over Alexander Skerritz. So not a lot to play for necessarily there, although a nice little battle starting to play itself up between Christoph Regenwetter and Paul Collishaw there for 5th place, only about 9 points separating the two. But we've got another close running back in the back there for the AM category as Christopher Otterholt holds on to about a 40 or so point, they call that a 30 point or so advantage over Russ Fowler. And we are hearing, I believe, that Otterholt is not here today, so Fowler could be able to claim that away from him. Also a good little battle there back in fourth place between Gordon Haug and David Gill. We'll have to see how that plays itself out. And don't count out Sean Cranley-Schwa to be able to move his way forward, or Marcel Nurnberg as well. So plenty of drivers there to be able to get themselves around and try to go. But we get ourselves ready here over into the teams championship as well. And there you can see, really to the surprise of nobody, IGL Coatings E-Racing #1 leading the way, and they have all but locked down that championship. Core Sim Racing holding on to second there behind them. Altitude Esports putting in a very, very valiant effort. Let's remember that Altitude only has 2 drivers entered here as compared to the 3 that most others have. But Hardpoint by Delta Sport, a little bit surprising to see them back in 4th. Track Scotland putting in a good effort there to come home 5th. WS Racing Esports, Alcantech, and then the Privateers holding down the fort in P8. But with that taken care of, we now bring ourselves to qualifying here, and the man to watch on the day, Nils-Erik Isaacson, is he going to be able to move his way up in the order to be able to surpass Christoph Herbeno? Well, he's not going to be able to do it like that, as he has a little bit of an off there coming down through the corners. We now focus in on Dominic Smerek, trying to see what he is able to do. And early on here, Thomas Cope, remember, switching over to that Mercedes halfway through the season. Cope is going to set the early marker. And so that means that we'll continue to watch here as Herbeno does what he needs to do to hold on to that championship advantage. Herbeno up into the top spot, Winkler and Fletcher behind them, Paluch and Dadswell rounding out your top runners. Here we see some of the drivers starting to put some times down on the board. Russ Fowler into 11th. There I say that's what Fowler needs to do. Remember, with Otterholt not here, he needs to try to maximize those points.
Yeah, that's certainly right. I mean, I'm just looking at his points in the championship, 32 points behind Otterholt at the moment. So pretty much that would mean he would need 34th position overall. With only 32 drivers, basically Russ Fowler's job, if he wasn't aware of it, is basically just to finish the race within 3 laps of the leader, and he will be our amateur championship here in season 4. So I wonder if he actually knows that. But certainly looking at it at the moment, currently topping the AMs in P16th overall, only a second behind the leader. So maybe just trying to see if he can end the season on a high, but it's all for him to lose in that AM championship. But like you were saying, in that pros as well, DJ, could have been super close. Isaacson, we saw in the second race out in Road America, unfortunately getting into an altercation with a back marker that literally put paid to a really high position in P2 in that race on the second race in Road Atlanta. So it could be more than 19 points. So probably feels a little bit frustrated about that and needs to make amends. But at the moment, Herbenu just knows what he needs to do, and he's sat there at the top of the timing tower. So he's going to have a hard job ahead of him.
Yeah, he certainly will. We ride on board with Christoph Herbeno here, and let's go ahead and take you for a lap around this Mid-Ohio circuit, down into turn 1. A little bit of a brush of the brakes there, flick it down into the corner. The car kind of breaks away from you there, but then compresses itself back and be able to get yourself back forward. Then we line up here, move the car all the way to the left, hop onto the binders, and get yourself through the keyhole. Diamond off this corner as much as possible, and get onto the throttle relatively early for the longest straight here at Mid-Ohio. This is the one chance on the track that you have as a driver to breathe, because when we come down here into China Beach, it all gets a little bit crazy. Really no braking markers here on the outside. You dive down onto the binders, though, clip a little bit of that curb, and be very, very careful on the throttle. You don't want to goose it too much, otherwise the rear tires will spin and it'll send you right around. You now come down through Madness here, flicking the car to the right, back over to the left. You can take that relatively flat out, clip a little bit of the curb there, and then get onto the binders for the ever-tricky turn 9. You've got to be very, very careful on throttle application there. Easy to spin the rear tires once again. That's a theme around this circuit. Now braking down into the carousel, getting it through the left-hander, and now around here, try to straight line that braking as much as possible before you bring the car over to the right, take a little bit of the curb, and straight line the final corner of turn 13. If you get that corner right, it's flat out. If you get it wrong, you've got to be very, very careful. You'll find yourself out in the grass. Only a minute 20 lap around here, so very short compared to what we've seen earlier in this season, but it is one that packs a real punch.
Yeah, certainly is. You can see the elevation change there, DJ, as you are going through the lap. Certainly around turn number 5, it's almost like a blind left-hand hairpin. So if a car is spinning on the exit out of that, a lot of the other drivers need to be aware of that, as they're not going to see the incident until it's right upon them. So probably one of the main features of this track, DJ, is, like you said, the undulating surface of the track. You know, it makes it a real challenge for the drivers out there. So, you know, we got an hour race ahead of us, and it's going to be a struggle for the drivers, I think. Certainly the mid-pack, trying to get that position out on track and get that clean line through. So it's, you know, there's probably no more of a track that's more important to make sure that that first lap is super clean with no damage, because what you really don't want to be doing is picking up aero damage earlier on in this race, certainly going over that second sector from turn 4 all the way to the end. So it's all about the drivers and how they approach the first half of this race.
Yeah, it certainly is. You've got to get through here nice and cleanly, and believe me, when we get down into China Beach and through Madness for the first time, or the S's, however you want to call that section of the track, really turn 6 all the way through turn 8, you want to be careful, but on the first lap, there's going to be a little bit of too wide. Ooh, is Sandro Marsani getting it a little bit wrong? He's going to have a little bit of a problem there and run himself out wide, but he's able to at least hold on to the car, but that's going to be his lap scuppered. Gordon Howe comes across the line, not going to be able to improve there from 28th place.
Certainly is. Mark Fletcher there in second place, 200ths of a second behind Herbanu, who's our current pole sitter, and then you've got Thomas Cope, 500ths of a second. So the top 3 extremely close, followed by Carl Winkler in the ever-present Audi there, only 1/10 of a second off. So extremely close at the top end of the field, as we always come to see. I mean, if you look at the timing tower, all the way down to P22 is within a second of a leader. It just shows how close of a racing this track is going to be, and it's all going to be about where you can position your car to get the maximum out of the turns. Certainly that turn number 12 coming around the carousel, lining that up, making sure you get to the inside of the corner, which is be the outside going into turn 13, to get that really good run, because like you said before, DJ, if you get that corner wrong, you can lose so much time coming down the start finish straight.
Yeah, you really and truly can. We follow Lasse Sorensen here as he brings his way through, trying to see if anything's going to play out here down through Thunder Valley right now. He's about 0.4 of a second off of the pole time of Christoph Herbeno, and only about 0.09 of a second off of Claeson's there up ahead of him. As he brings it down through the carousel, straight lining that last corner. Ooh, big wiggle there. I don't think that's going to help Lasse as he comes across the line, and indeed, he's going to stay put, not able to improve.
No, Chris Danes, we just saw there leap from 15th up to 12th, so had a really good lap there in the one and only McLaren out on track. So flying the flag really for the Macca there in P13. But currently on board here with David Gill, who's sort of come on strong, obviously, as we come to the end of qualifying. They're not quite able to finish that lap, but he's come on quite strong at the end of the season. It's a what-if season for David Gill. First half wasn't the best. Second half has been a complete change of fortune.
Certainly has, and that's going to bring us to our qualifying order here. Christoph Herbeno doing exactly what he needs to do, holding on to pole position here. Mark Fletcher to his outside. Thomas Cope and Carl Winkler will make up row 2 behind them, with Mike Paluch and Herbeno's title rival here, Nils Eriks Isaacson, lining up in P6. He's going to have it all to do here today. PJ Claesons will be 7th, followed by the first of your AM drivers, Lasse Sorensen, then Tom Dadswell and Jacob Behrens round out your top top 10. It'll be Martin Deckens and Matthew Crisp there in row 6. Behind them in 13th, it's Chris Danes and Lucas Lang. Kjetil Larson and Nikolai Thrain line up 15th and 16th, with Sandro Marsani and Kieran Smart behind them. Ronald Grossman and Stuart Wyness for Track Scotland will round out row 10, with Gavin Gardner and Alexander Scarrett making up the first all-Pro-Am row. Then we get back into the meat of the AM field here. Russ Fowler and then David Gill, followed by Aske Theodore Svensson and Thomas Jazz in 26th. 27th will be Dominic Smerrick, followed by Gordon Haug, with Chris Rance and Matt Sayer. Connor Craven and Paul Collishaw will round out your 32-car grid here at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, certainly a good showing for the last round of the season. At least we've got 32 cars out on track. Like you said, the Pro is still up for grabs. The AM is all in the hands of Russ Fowler if he can keep it clean out on track, with the AM leader Otter Holt not here tonight. So it's still a lot to play for in this last round. After 12 rounds of racing, 2 championships come down to this final round.
Yes, they do, and there you can see a little bit of a short pace lap here as the field grids up through Thunder Valley, which means you're not going to have a lot of time to be able to warm up each of those tires, but we'll have to see how it plays out here today. Working their way through, Mark Fletcher, as we watch right now in that BMW for Altitude Esports, starting to the outside of Christoph Herbeno as they come relatively single file through the carousel right now. It's going to be a quick burst on to the loud pedal as we get going here around that long right-hander, and then the flick to the left that gets us onto the straightaway, and Herbeno is on it immediately as there goes the green, and we are racing in Mid-Ohio, and it's a good getaway there for Christoph Herbeno. A little bit of side-by-side there behind them. You've got to be careful coming through the first corner with that. That's a very easy area to get off, but it looks like the middle of the field able to get through nice and cleanly. Herbeno leads away. A little bit of side-by-side here in the back. Martin Deckens, Thrain, Lang, everybody getting together down into the keyhole.
Yeah, it definitely is. The top 11 positions haven't really changed. The only change in that is Michael Palic has got past his teammate Carl Winkler for P4 overall. But Christopher Herbenu was really on a bad line coming out of that turn 13, so did all he could to get the jump and did exactly what he could. Only 0.2 of a second ahead of Mark Fletcher. But like you said, this first lap, got to take it a little bit cooler here as they come round turn number 5, that blind crest right-hander. Coming over the top, and we can see further down the field, not really a lot. The biggest mover is Alex Scarrett in P18th, up 4 positions from where he started.
Yeah, up 4 positions, and that'll be a good run there for him. He'll be pretty pleased with that as we do continue to watch here up the front of the field. Herbeno, despite that good jump at the top of the field, not able to necessarily break away here from Fletcher and Cope, both of them keeping things close behind. A little bit of a gap back to Mike Paluch and Carl Winkler in those twin Audis, but they are going to try to hold it out here for as long as possible. BMW versus Mercedes right here as they flick their way through turn 1 for the second time. Looks like a pretty good run here for Mark Fletcher, and indeed Herbeno thinking he's got to go a little bit defensive down into the keyhole. I don't think Fletcher's really going to send a move there, but as they get onto the binders, what can happen going through China Beach? A little bit of move in the back there from Martin Deckens down to the inside of Chris Danes, and he's going to get that move done, but Danes with a crossover. Yeah,
it definitely is. One of the things to be interesting to note, the RGL Coltons we normally see at the front of the grid, controlling the grid from the start, didn't have it all their own way here at Mid-Ohio. Obviously, Christopher Herbenu got it up on front. Mark Fletcher, Tom Koch, and the Audi contingency got in front of the RGL Coltons, and Isaacson at the moment in P6 has really got it all to do. Needs to get in front of Herbenu, and even that is actually not enough. He needs Herbenu to have an incident in this race to go down the field. So Herbenu just needs to watch where Isaacson is and just react to where he is to win this Pro Championship. But we all know Herbenu. He is certainly a racer and will want to go out with a bang and win the Pro Championship with style. So currently leading this field, only 0.3 of a second, so not really pulling away from Mark Fletcher or Thomas Cope. Little bit off the pace, 0.7 of a second at the moment, so the front two just trying to scamper away from Thomas Cope in 3rd place.
Yeah, trying to scamper away, and one thing that we're going to have to talk about here over the course of this race, this is only a 2.25-mile circuit, relatively small in terms of the circuits that we've been to over the course of the year. traffic management is going to play a key as we watch Stuart Wyness and Ronald Grossman going side by side down into the keyhole. The Audi trying to hold on to that inside line. Grossman, or Wyness rather, trying to hold around the outside, and the grunt of the BMW looks like he's going to be able to carry that away. But there goes Grossman trying to hold that out a little bit. Excuse me, that's David Gill that he was just able to get by. Twin Audis there throwing me a little bit off. Gill trying to send him a move down to the inside of China Beach, but that's not going to play out, and he backs out of it.
Yeah, he does, making a wise decision there coming into turn number 5. David Gill at the moment, our top AM driver. Russ Fowler there in second place, only 2 paces behind. So David Gill really, like I said, come on strong at the end of this championship, and we'll be fighting for that top position in the AM championship round here at Mid-Ohio. So really putting Stuart Wyness, the pro driver, in front of him, a little bit of pressure. But we've got Mad Sire off on the track here, the Lamborghini, and let's have a look what happened here, DJ.
This looks like it's coming down through Madness, I believe, up and over, and just a little bit too much speed, and that threw him around. That's one of the problems here with the elevation changes. I mentioned on that track guide, you've got to be very, very careful on throttle application, or the rear end of the car will just break away from you.
Yeah, he certainly looked like he took too much of that corner as well, and probably got his left-hand wheels onto the grass, which didn't help when he applied the throttle, which spun that Lamborghini down. So our first mistake really on the track has been a pretty clean race so far. Only 4 minutes, nearly 5 minutes into an hour-long race, and obviously what we all come to know about these GT trophies is a story of 2 halves. So we got the first half up until the round of the pit stops, then we got the battle of the pit stops, and then we've got the second half of the race. So the pit stop is where it can all be won and lost in these races. So it's going to be interesting to see what the drivers do here today. Being a short track, as you mentioned, DJ, also gives the opportunity to try and save a little bit of fuel behind the drivers in front of you to get that extra couple of laps out on track. Because what you don't want to be doing is going into that pit, and like you said, traffic management is coming out in the mid-pack of this race and losing a lot of time to slower drivers. So it's all going to be about where you come in for that pit stop and where you come out of it.
Yes, it is, as here comes Martin Deckens trying to send a little bit of a move here on Lasse Sorensen, and it looks like that move is going to be done and dusted. Good gutsy attack there going into turn 1. That's not a heavy braking zone. That is a full commitment kind of corner, and so for Sorensen to be able to, for Deckens to be able to hold that out, very, very impressive. There behind, we see Chris Danes trying to hold on. Matthew Crisp behind him, but Crisp is going to have it all to do behind him because that's Nikolai Thrain, almost giving him a bump draft here coming down the straightaway off of the keyhole. Is that going to be a little bit of a poke to the outside, or are they running some team tactics, those 2 drivers, obviously both working for Alcatech NHR?
Yeah, we've seen Matthew Crisp a few races where he's not really had the straight line speed over the rest of the competitors, pretty much being a stand-in duck when it becomes a straight line speed race, as Matthew Crisp in the past with quite a few of the drivers. But this track obviously ran this second half of the track very tight, very twisty, so it may line up to the setups that it seems that Matthew's quite happy with, which is a little bit more downforce and losing a bit more straight line speed. So should be very racy around this second half, but it's all going to tell when he comes out onto the opening section after turn number 13 and all the way up until turn 4, if he has that straight line speed or he loses it. Oh, as we've got another driver off.
And that looks like Svensson there off in the back. Let's watch here. This is coming over the crest down through 8 and 9. Same problem again, just a little bit too much speed, a little eager on the throttle, and that's going to send the car right around. Although luckily there did not make any contact with the outside wall. We check back in on the battle with the lead as this battle has sort of ebbed and flowed over the last couple of laps here. Herbino did have it up to about 0.6 of a second, but Fletcher able to pull it back in. It's down to about 0.2 right now.
Yeah, it certainly is, and Thomas Cope is not far behind. So these top 3 at the moment, with Michael Palic in 4th there in the Audi, 1.9 seconds behind this leading trio out in front at the moment. But yeah, Mark Fletcher seems to be losing a little bit of time, so it'd be interesting to see what portion of the track he's actually losing the time over Herbinu. But certainly there's another part of the track that Fletcher is a lot quicker than Herbinu to be able to get back that time. So it's extremely close with these top 3 drivers at the moment. And Thomas Cole obviously had a pretty much a dismal season in his abilities and probably in his expectations of where he wanted to be. So really wants to make a really good exit out of this championship. Obviously our last season's overall champion, he's not really had the fortune that he did in season 3.
No, he certainly didn't, and potentially one of the reasons why we're seeing a little bit of that ebb and flow with Fletcher is we're hearing some reports that he is lifting and coasting a little bit, so that could be interesting as we watch Chris Danes here coming out of the final corner. We ride on board with the McLaren driver for Verano Bavaria right now. Oh, touches the grass going into turn 1, and that is going to be a big off. Did he manage to save it before he made contact with the barriers? Yes, he did, but that is going to be a bucket load of positions lost.
Yeah, down to P29 at the moment, so that little tiny mistake has been very costly for Chris Danes down at the back end of the field now in P28, and a little bit off the back of the pack there, so has to make up a little bit of time. You can see they're down 15 positions from where he started. The grid, as you mentioned out on track here, as we go to a replay here of Connor Craven down here through the keyhole. Did he just lose it? Oh yeah, it was extremely wide out on track, gets onto the grass and literally like a slow motion replay right across the track. Luckily, like you said, there's no drivers around him to cause a bigger incident, but a little bit of a silly mistake there from Craven.
Yeah, a little bit of a silly mistake there. As you can see, the leader's starting to drop Thomas Cope just a little bit, but a fierce battle starting to develop here for P4 between the 2 teammates of Paluch and Winkler, and then Niels-Erik Isaacson starting to close in behind, and this is exactly what Isaacson needs to do. He needs to move his way up through the field if he wants to have any chance to be able to take the championship fight here to Christoph Herbino. Remember, they are separated by not that many points because of the bad start last time out for Herbino. Isaacson not fully able to capitalize though, and so he's going to have to try to get by these 2 twin Audis here.
He certainly is, but at the moment not made any positions up on track as we watch Behrens and Deckins, the top 2 in the pro, have a little battle out through turn number 5, coming through 6, coming down into madness here, and it looks like Behrens might have, as they come into contact there, Behrens just going on the inside, clipping Deckins coming through there. Luckily, both of them still managed to stay on track, but Behrens, even though he is 102 points ahead in that Pro-Am Championship, is not giving up anything to Deckins.
No, he's certainly not, and that is just racer's instinct kicking in there, I have to think, and just kind of muscling Deckins out of the way there, and he's got to be a little bit careful, does Martin Deckins, because Lasse Sorensen there, Behrens' teammate, is coming up behind, so we've got a nice little 3-way battle here for the podium positions in the Pro-Am category, and we'll have to see how that shakes out as we tick over here with about 50 minutes left to go in this race, just over 11 off, and that's a big off in the back by a BMW. Don't know how that car was able to keep that together. My goodness gracious.
That was extremely close. So we see Sandro Marsani there coming around the keel and getting it side by side, and I believe that is with Grossman coming through the keyhole there, just literally almost like cut off. Grossman unfortunately had nowhere to go, I believe, and I'm pretty sure we'll see a replay of that to see who was possibly at fault there, but certainly this midfield coming down to the back end still extremely racy as ever. You can see there Russ Fowler in the white and blue Performance Link Sport literally just trying to keep out of trouble because he just knows that all he needs to do is finish this race, and that AM Championship is him. And just obviously a bit of inside information here from Russ Fowler. He has always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. I think every single championship I've been in, Mazda Cup, he's been about 3 championships in second place, so this is his opportunity.
And let's watch here exactly what happened to Sandro Marsanis, the iLiveries driver. Brings it down into the first corner, a little bit off of the apex, runs it wide out onto the grass, able to catch the car, which is no easy feat there. That's going to allow a couple of drivers on by, tries to be able to hold it in, and a little bit of argy-bargy there with Ronald Grossman, a little bit of how you doing, and that is going to be enough to send Marsani all the way down. It looks like Grossman's been able to avoid any major damage to the car, but obviously a big put back in the back there for Marsani.
Yeah, I think Grossman really couldn't do anything there. I think Masani just obviously after his incident in turn 1, how he managed to save that, I do not know. But obviously he was continuing to lose speed coming down to turn 2, the keyhole, and unfortunately turned in on Grossman there. But luckily didn't spin the car, so I think Grossman actually helped him stay on the right way of the track, even though he did lose a few more positions. But we look back up to the front of the field, and you can sort of see the top 7 there not really changed positions, apart from the two teammates, Powlich and Winkler, just changing from 4th to 5th. Apart from that, there's no real changes, and that's just playing into the hands of Herbenu at the moment, with his main rival Isaacson in 6th place and not really being able to make any sort of advances over the 2 Audi drivers in front of him.
No, he's really not, and I wonder here if some of that nimbleness of the Audis is coming to play out around this circuit. A little bit of a wide run there in front for Paluch. That could hurt him a little bit, and you saw Winkler feeling the need to go slightly defensive there, so they're certainly at least feeling the pressure from behind here from Nils-Erik Isaacson. Even if Isaacson's not able to get the run that he needs to, he's applying the pressure, and at this stage in the race, I think that is part of what he needs to do. But if he's looking at the championship, he needs to get a move on. He needs to move his way forward ASAP.
He certainly does, or he maybe even need to look at a completely different tactic. You know, at the moment he cannot pass the 2 Audis, and he's losing time on the leader at the moment. So maybe he needs to think about doing the undercut on the pit stop, as long as he can look at where he will come out, and if he can get a little bit of free space, maybe that's what he needs to do, to give him the free space on track to maybe put in some fast laps, because at the moment he just hasn't got any answer to Herbenu.
Well, if he wants to be able to try to find that, one of the ways I can recommend to help him out is to use SDK Gaming, one of the features of which does actually allow you to be able to see what your pit stop delta will be and where it will feed you out on track. You can also add a virtual live HUD to iRacing that shows those timing towers, enhanced relative boxes, mini-maps, fuel calculators, and on that track map, like I said, where you are able to slot out. You can stream to Twitch with the most complete overlay on iRacing and broadcast your lead. And SDK Gaming syncs commentary teams, focuses on drivers, and overlays with your broadcaster. You can adjust that team strategy on the fly with the most accurate live timing on iRacing. So go ahead and check that out if you want to be able to make your strategy calls even better. As we see there, Dominic Smerik getting passed by a couple of drivers there as they go down into the corner now. Yaz, though, trying to be able to get that move done on Smerik, and it looks like it's done easy as you please.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, just looking at this race, although we know the Mercedes is extremely fast on the straight line speed, it certainly looks at the moment that the Mercedes is struggling a little bit around this mid-Ohio track. I mean, if you look at the timing tower, normally dominating at the front by the Mercedes. The top Mercedes driver is Thomas Colt in 3rd place at the moment, but losing track to the 2 BMW drivers in front of him of Fletcher and Herbenu. And then you look, it's more of a mid-pack car around this race. You've got more of the Porsches up there. The BMW seems to be on par, and the Audis are doing exceptionally well around this track. So the Mercedes struggling a little bit, but certainly will be making up some of that time around the open straights part of the circuit, but not having all its own way, which is actually a refreshing change, I think.
Yeah, we're so used to seeing that Mercedes be absolutely dominant around here and around any circuit we've been to this year. It's kind of nice to see a little bit of change. But Cope, as you said, falling back just a little bit, not really able to hold that out. Herbeno and Fletcher up ahead of them, trying to close down. Fletcher keeping that gap under 0.3 of a second, so I think that's good here for Mark Fletcher. I think he just wants to keep himself in position. At this point in the race, you don't need to try to go on by. Here's another battle a little bit farther back in the back of the pack. This is PJ Claessens for Fiercely Forward, followed by Tom Dadswell right now as they work their way around about 7 seconds off of the leader, but Dadswell only about 7/8 of a second behind Claessens here.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that Claessens can have a decent race. We saw him with quite a few rounds, have a really good first half of the race, get into the top half of the field, and then it seems like that Porsche really, the tyres just run away from the car and really struggles in the second half of the race. So it's hopeful that PJ Claessens can have a decent end and be our top Porsche driver here in P7. So we look back at Lucas Lang, who's struggling a little bit as well. We saw him a race winner already this season, but languishing in the mid-pack at the moment in P14 behind Matthew Crisp, the BMW driver. So not having it all his own way here is the German driver, who's so in tune with that car. I'm quite surprised to see him back there in 14th. But like you said, this track is completely different than anything else that's been on the circuit and on this season. So it's been a challenge for the drivers, and it will certainly show if the drivers have not really put in the practice for this round.
Yeah, it certainly will. This is a track that will really and truly punish you if you are not careful. The first sector, relatively easy, relatively straightforward, but once you get down into the second part of this lap, when you come through China Beach, really about where we're watching Gavin Gardner work his way into right now, this is the part of the circuit that you just have to be on your absolute toes to make sure you get right. The elevation change can really throw you off anywhere around here. So very difficult to get right. And I'll tell you something, I love this track, Andy, but I think I've gotten this combination right maybe once in about 200 laps I've run around here.
Yeah, certainly a challenging track and a really good fitting end to this season. You know, gives the drivers a little bit more to think about, not only just the championship, of just about finishing this race at the moment. There's one driver that is clearly just thinking about finishing this race, Russ Fowler. Ooh, as we see Marcini again get it slightly wrong there, coming around the carousel. Russ Fowler just manages to get it, but comes out squirrely. Just needs to keep it clean, and probably not the best driver to be around at the moment is Marcini, because he's all over the track at the moment as he goes off the track again. Oh, wow, comes off. He's certainly hit the wall on that occasion.
Yeah, big heavy damage there to the front end of that BMW. That is not going to be the way that he runs. Let's go back and check out what happened here. You can see the side-by-side battle with Fowler. Tries to back off and give him enough space, but just gets onto the throttle a little bit early, picks up some understeer, almost catches it, and a heavy contact there into the Armco.
Yeah, that was so lucky. If Russ Fowler had a few kittens there, seeing the car go off the track and spearing across. Luckily, he was far enough ahead, but that road hazard at the moment, which is Marcini, seems to have got away. So Russ Fowler there, pretty much in no man's land at the moment. Got a 1 second gap to Gardner in front and to Jazz behind. So can calm down a little bit for him, the AM driver, who all has to do is finish this race to win the championship. But drawing him back up to the front end of the grid, and I think, as our producer said, Jamie, that Mark Fletcher is probably doing a lot of coasting out on track just to save that fuel, to try and get that overshot from Herbenu at the moment, because like you said, Herbenu is quite fast on this track and not really giving up any opportunity for Mark Fletcher to make that passing move.
No, he's really not. He's driving the lines he needs to do here and really keeping that car pointed in the right direction. And so I think trying to jump him in the pit stops may be the best way by. If you're able to just take maybe a second, maybe a half a second out of that time, put yourself in a position, that could be the way to go. We watch here, although Lasse Sorensen playing a little bit of defense to Lucas Lang. Lang tries to look down to the inside, going into China Beach, and Sorensen looks like he went on the attack there on Matthew Crisp. Is it all kind of coming to play there down through this section of the track? Everybody keeping everything up and underneath them through turn 5. Lang looking like he had a little bit of overspeed, but had to check his momentum, and he's got to watch out from behind there. Kjetil Larsen not too far back, another one of the IGL Coatings eRacing team members, as he is closing in behind them as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. This mid-pack battle is certainly heating up at the moment. You got Matthew Chrysler in P12, Sorensen just behind him, just trying to look for a passing opportunity on Crisp, and then you got Lang behind him looking for a passing move on Sorensen. So these three drivers at the moment are really going tooth and nail at it. And then you've got Larson, Smart and Scarrett just behind, with Grossman not that far off this pack. So ended up being around about a 7-car battle here for P12 overall. So this mid-pack battle is certainly intensifying as we go into 22 minutes into this hour-long race.
Yeah, it certainly is. A little bit of a wider run there, it had to be said, up in front there for Kjetil Larsen, though. I'm not sure if that's going to help him or not. We keep our eyes here focused on Alexander Scarrett, though, as they march their way down the long back straightaway here, headed towards China Beach. Not really seeing anybody close enough to really be able to get a poke to the inside here, going down into this complex. And indeed, they're going to stay single file here, but we're only about 7 minutes away from what we normally see as that pit stop window starting to open, and I've got to think here, as we've got Chris Rance off.
Yeah, that looks around turn number 2. Chris Rance going back to the pits there, so we'll look at what happened here as he comes down this straight into his coming into the corner. Let's see if he hits the grass on the outside. Yes, he does. Hits the grass on the outside, bounces over the inside curb, and unfortunately cannot get his car stuck and hits into the tire wall.
And you actually saw him there coming through turn 1, that car was in a 4-wheel slide as well, so that was a little bit out of control all the way around the lap. We do a check-in here as Lucas Lang looking his way forward, getting a move down to the inside of turn 1. That's not always where you see an overtake done, but he's able to get by Lasse Sorensen. Immediately goes defensive, though, as he's worried about Sorensen being able to attack to the outside of the keyhole. They come down into the corner there, and it looks like he's able to hold it out for now.
Yeah, certainly do. And then you got a big gaggle of IGL Coatings team. Sorensen, Kjetil Larsen, Alexander Scarrett. They're 14th, 15th, and 16th at the moment. The IGL Coatings probably wondering what's going on here, because they normally are extremely dominant team in this championship. They're normally at the front end, the sharp end of the grid. At the moment, the one flying the flag for them is Niels Erik Isaacson, who's in P6 but is really not making any inroads. Literally started P6 out on the grid and is still in P6, not able to make any changes over the leaders in front of him, so really has to think of something different to do as a tactic, because at the moment this championship is just running away from him.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we focus here on these two twin Audis for Core Sim Racing Legacy right now, with Isaacson still plugged up behind them, not really able to get that move done, taking closer to 25 minutes down in this race. That's going to be Isaacson having a little bit of a half-hearted look to the outside of the keyhole, but that's not going to play out. He's going to have to stay in line here, and we've got the first of our pit stops starting to fire off. That's Kjetil Larsen coming down pit lane.
Yeah, probably giving a good spotter for the rest of this team to give him a little bit of coaching of pit entry and exit of things to go. But it'd be interesting to see where he comes out. The first to blink at the moment, Kjetil Larsen comes out in P23rd out on track. So the time is 13.38 seconds is the benchmark for the rest of the grid for their pit stops. And you see at the moment at the front of the grid, Herbin just managing to get a little bit more of a gap over Fletcher. It was always round about 0.2 of a second. It's gone out to 0.4 of a second at the moment. Thomas Cope is actually clawing back in again. It was around about 1.5 seconds off these front two drivers, but it's now sort of closing back up. So these front three at the moment running away from the field and running away from Carl Winkler in fourth. You can see him there just coming around the last turn. So these three managed to jump the gap over Carl Winkler in fourth.
And we've got a little bit of side-by-side here between Svensson and Craven going down into the corner, and it looks like the Mercedes of Svensson is going to be able to hold that at bay right now. A good move going down into China Beach, and he's going to start to spread away here a little bit. The SimLab Esport driver trying to see what he can do in that number 22. He's going to have a little bit of work to do to try to gain up ahead of him, as that's a pretty hefty gap of about 10 seconds up to Kieran Smart. Gotta say, a little bit of a surprising position to see Smart all the way down through the field. The Track Scotland driver, we're used to seeing him up in the top 10, and he is just not having the best races here today.
It certainly is. A lot of the usual suspects up the front are really struggling around this mid-Ohio track. It's probably one of them equalizer tracks, like you said. If you have a really good qualifying session, and because this track is extremely hard to make a clean move on, that passing becomes few and far between. So at the moment, quite a few of the drivers, you've got Chris Daines, who we saw down in P22, Kjetil Larsen in 23rd, and Kieran Smart 9th, 8th and 6th places lost from their starting grids. So not having the best of days, Daines, Larsen and Smart. We'll be joined back on board with our Pro-Am well, we might as well put the crown on his face, on his head, I suppose, on his face, on his head, because he's 102 points ahead. I think the only thing that could really scupper him is if he gets a lot of penalty points around this last round to lose that championship really over Deckens. But it's good to see that Deckens is not giving up the fight at the moment, just behind him in P10th. But Behrens has been just outstanding this season, really putting it and playing it to the pros. Really, we saw him get a couple of race wins earlier on in the season, certainly around Fuji, where he was extremely quick, and he's just come on leaps and bounds from where he was at the start of the season. It's almost like a switch has been flicked for Jakob Behrens, and he's literally just taken hold of that Pro-Am championship and made it his own.
Yeah, he certainly has. We watch here another driver who has really had a good season, and this is Nils-Erik Isaacson. He's been able to get by one of those pesky Audis in the form of Mike Paluch. Let's go back and check out the replay of this move. This looks like it's coming down to China Beach, just able to get a good run off the keyhole, and he is going to tuck in behind, get a nice helping of the draft, move out to the inside, be later on the binders, and that is a textbook maneuver there for the 177. A little bit wide coming down into China Beach, but able to get it back under him, and that's going to move him up to 5th, but he has still got a lot of work to do if he wants to try to hold on to any hope of claiming this championship title.
Yeah, I think his hope now rests on Herbenu having an issue at the front of the field, but at the moment it doesn't look like that is going to happen. Herbenu doing an exceptionally clean race at the moment, being put under pressure there from Mark Fletcher behind, but as you can see there, the lead now out to 0.8 of a second, so Herbenu really putting down the hammer now to try and get a little bit of a gap between himself and Fletcher. But we do believe that Fletcher's been doing a lot of coasting, so we would expect Fletcher to go a little bit deeper into this race than Herbenu. But Herbenu doesn't even need to win this race. All he needs to be is within 1 or 2 positions of Isaacson to clinch the Pro Championship. So, but going out on a bang, I believe, as we join back with Jakob Behrens. Has he had an issue?
Maybe he has. Let's go and check out exactly what happened here to the 212. He takes a look down to the inside, and whoa! Just a little late on the binders, and a little bit of a tap from behind there from Martin Deckens, and that's enough to spin the 212 around. As there they go, he's going to be off into the kitty litter, and everything is going to be re-racked and restacked. He'll bring himself back around and get onto track without too much problem there, but he will lose a bunch of positions.
Yeah, certainly will, and that was probably by his own doing, really, as we see Thomas Colt from 3rd place, the first to blink in that front trio coming into pit lane, so we'll see where he comes out after that. Some 13 seconds should be around about P16, I reckon. P17 he should come back out on track, but no, still in the pit, so he has taken 16.2 seconds, so a lot slower than the rest of the field that has been in for pits already.
Yeah, a lot slower indeed, so we will have to see as we are officially over the halfway point here, and here is one of those drivers who has come down pit lane, Thomas Cope, pitting from 3rd place out on track. He currently finds himself behind one of those Pro-Am drivers, Thomas Jazz, right now, and he's going to have to get by him quickly. This is the fear. This is one of the problems of pitting in a little bit early on a short track like this, is finding yourself in this traffic.
It is, certainly is, but he has got a little bit of a gap now, as long as he can get past Thomas Jazz, which he does coming up to turn number 5. So he has got a little bit of clear track in front of him to try and get them lap times in, but we'll be closing up on the back of Russ Valley. You can see there, around about 4 seconds, just over 4 seconds, the gap between Fowler and Cope. So it does have a little bit of free air. It could have been a lot worse for Thomas.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse, and so now he's going to be able to move his way forward just a little bit as we focus here on Martin Deckens, currently running in 8th place. He's got to watch out from behind Nikolai Thrain there, another fellow Pro-Am driver, not too far behind, as Deckens now will inherit the lead of this Pro-Am category as they work their way around. I believe that is Svensson, some lap traffic that they get by, and it looks like that's going to split the difference there a little bit, is that is going to slow down Thrain as they come down on the straightaway towards the keyhole.
Yeah, it does. But just going back to that incident with Jacob Behrens, he did obviously try to make that lunge into turn number 2, got it completely wrong. And then it might have been a bit of sportsmanship at the back there. Jacob, obviously, Martin Decker's there, giving a little bit of tap to make sure he turned around the wrong way and obviously lost a few more positions out on track. I think that's just me being sceptical. I'm pretty sure that Martins didn't do that on purpose, but yeah, has really profited from that, up in P8 at the moment, top of the Pro-Ams, but does have a little bit of competition by Nikolai Thrain, who we've seen in previous rounds has really come on strong, so it's going to be a good race for that Pro-Am championship.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very good one there for him. We focus, though, on your current leader of the AM category right now. This is David Gill for Fast and Fuelless. Gill's had a pretty good run of the season thus far. He's been putting in some pretty consistent results, being able to get his way up forward right now. And as we look over at that AM championship, he does find himself back down in 4th place. But remember, he needs to have a good result here to get ahead of Gordon Haug.
Yeah, it certainly does, and at the moment doing all he can up into P13, which will be a good points haul if he can keep the car there. As we look further back, Gordon Haig in P28, you know, miles off the pace currently, and a big place difference between himself and David Gill in 13th. So Gordon there struggling a little bit, probably caught up in an incident earlier on and almost put him into no man's land, already a lap down from the leader.
Yeah, as we focus here on Kjetil Larsen working his way through. He's already made his pit stop around here as he is by Kieran Smart right now. And apologies there to Kieran Smart. He also has made his pit stop. That's why he finds himself a little bit farther down in the field. But as we tick over here, closer and closer to 35 minutes down in this race, only 25 left to go. Still waiting for the majority of the field to come down into the pits. But Martin Deckens is going to be the latest one to come on in. A little bit of a scary moment there for Kjetil Larsen, losing the back end of the car a little bit through madness.
Yeah, we've got David Gill in as well, the top AM driver, coming into his pit stops. But it's quite amazing this late into the race, 35 minutes. And we still got over half the field still need to come in for a pit stop. The top 14 at the moment all owe us a pit stop. The highest of the pit stoppers at the moment is Thomas Cope, coming in from 3rd place overall, currently down in P15. And that just shows you how short this track is, DJ, to come in from 3rd and then come out on track in P15. So the field relatively still close together to be able to lose that amount of positions after a relatively short pit stop on this track.
Well, as our driver expert and director just told us, though, not the hardest track on fuel consumption. You can do plenty of lifting and coasting there through the second part of the track, and you can really learn how to do that if you want to install Virtual Racing School. It can improve your on-track performance and help you with some of those fuel-saving strategies with over 50-plus data packs for road and oval racing, setups, track guides, data analysis software, and one-on-one coaching. The data analysis software in particular can really help you to figure out exactly where to get that fuel save on and where to get the power down. So go ahead and check out VRS to be able to do that. But as we continue to watch Kieran Smart right now, just keeping his way ahead of Nikolai Thrain, trying to close down on Kjetil Larsen in front of him as they go. Oh, but that was a little bit of a mistake there from Smart, and Nikolai Thrain says thank you very much.
Yeah, a little bit too much mustard coming out of that corner, getting a little bit sideways, and Nikolai Thrain took that corner really well and just said thank you very much, I'll have that position. So that is Nikolai Thrain up to P20th, making a quite easy pass there from a mistake from Smart as we join back up to the front of the field. And Herbany really on a charge at the moment, 1.6 seconds lead over Mark Fletcher in 2nd place. Carl Winkler 4.5 seconds off the back in 3rd, but has the close proximity of Isaacson in 4th place at the moment. But Herbany at the moment is just pulling out at the front of this race, expecting him to come in pretty soon, but Fletcher should be able to go a few more laps longer than Herbany, with the fact that the majority of this race he's just been tucked up behind the wing of the Hardport by Delta Sport teammate there. So it's going to be interesting to see after the round of pit stops if Fletcher can make that jump, but it's being made harder at the moment, DJ, with Herbany really putting the hammer down.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I think as we get into the second half of this race, the other thing we're going to have to start worrying just a little bit about is going to be tire wear. Now, this is not a massive, massive tire degradation circuit, but at the same time, the tires will wear over the course of an hour race, and with all of the elevation change and all of the very tricky conditions and the easiness that it is to be able to get onto the loud pedal a little bit early and spin those rear tires, we could see some more mistakes start to filter in from these drivers. So I think the last 20 minutes or so of this race could be very, very interesting in that regard. A couple more drivers in the pit lane. Looks like Russ Fowler and Thomas Jazz both coming in and out right now. But we follow Niels-Erik Isaacson. He's up into fourth, still yet to pit, and he's trying to close down on Carl Winkler.
He certainly is, and I think that will be exactly right coming in after the round of pit stop. These tyre wear around this track, like you said, the undulating nature of this track, the tight, fast turns coming downhill off camber will really put a strain on them tyres. Oh, as we see there, was that off? That was Carl Winkler just going off to the side, but he was actually just pitted. So both teammates, Winkler and Powledge, from third and fourth coming into pits.
All right, so it's only a matter of time here, I think, before we see the rest of the field come on in, as that will promote Isaacson up into third place. Looks like Winkler, Paluch, Dadswell, and Stuart Wyness, your latest takers down pit lane. Here's one driver who hasn't stopped yet. That is Lucas Lang. He's trying to close down on the back of Alexander Scarrett as they run right now. Has a little bit of a half-hearted look going down into the keyhole, rather, but it's not going to play out there for him. He's going to get on the loud pedal out of that 180-degree corner, bring it down to China Beach. I think he's going to be a little bit too far back to truly make a move here, but he's at least going to try to apply as much pressure as possible to the back of Chris.
Yeah, Chris going defensive there, coming down here into the China Beach corner up into turn number 5. So really closing off the line for Lang to be able to make an attack coming down there. So Chris really playing defensive at the moment. These two drivers still need to pit. It's currently 39, nearly 40 minutes, only 20 minutes left of this race. So as we see that, our leader does come in, and surprisingly, Mark Fletcher comes in as well.
Yeah, a little bit surprised by that. I would have thought that they've been able to save a little bit more fuel and maybe able to make it work. But the crucial thing here is this is going to allow for Niels-Erik Isaacson to be able to get himself in some truly clean air here, bring himself around and not have anything to worry about. So maybe he's able to get a little bit more saving done and just power ahead. Looks like the other driver to really make this strategy work is Lucas Lang. He's been able to save enough to do one more lap around here as well.
Yeah, it certainly has, but unfortunately I don't think Isaacson's going to have the lap space that he wants to be able to make the advantage up. As we watch Scarrett missing his pit box and doing like a 3-point turn to try and get back into there. So we'll have a look on board, see what happened to Alexander Scarrett when he came into the pit. So just coming down there, oh, he's lost it, coming into the carousel offline, just manages to get onto the pit lane entrance without probably getting a penalty, but and then to add to his woes, he misses his box.
Yeah, he does. That is not good there. You can see the recognition that he missed it. Has to back himself back up there. That is just a lap going from bad to worse there for Alexander Scarrett. And he is able to get his service now, but that is going to massively drop him down the order. Now the question is, and the question's been answered, Niels-Erik Isaacson coming down pit lane right now. He is going to find himself in the pits, and the question is where is he going to find himself in relation to the other leaders? Here is Lucas Lang, the other one who we are waiting on to still come down into pit lane. Can Lang make this one more lap? Nope, the Porsche driver's going to come on in.
Yeah, it definitely is, and that is our complete field done. Their pit stops at the moment. Ebony just coming around the carousel through the last corner to take back over the P1 position here. Isaacson coming out of the pits, but we'll have to try to just see him there in the background. So not really made up a lot of room. He has managed to jump Thomas Cope at the moment. It's going to be extremely close between them two, but Isaacson looks like at the moment he has jumped Thomas Cope to that P3 position. And demoting Thomas Cope to P4. So Thomas just losing out a little bit, and under extreme pressure there from Carl Winkler, who hits the back end, and unfortunately Thomas Cope spins around there coming through the keyhole. So not the start of the race, or start of the second half of the race that Thomas Cope wanted.
No, not at all. And we jump back to check out that replay. And you see here, it just looked like Winkler saw a little bit of a gap, went for it. Cope, I don't think, realized he was there. He was alongside there, and I've unfortunately got to put a little bit of that blame onto Thomas Cope himself. He definitely cut off that progress there.
Yeah, no, completely agree. He actually came in onto the line that Winkler did have, so I think it was a little bit of not seeing that Audi in his right mirrors, unfortunately cutting off the track. But coming off the worst there, Thomas Cope demoted to P7 at the moment. Clayson's there in 6th, still going strong in the Porsche, the top Porsche driver in 6th place. He'll be promoted to a few positions out on track, up 1 position from where he started. So hopefully he can bring that in now. Only 17 minutes left of this last race in the season, and looks at the moment Herbenu has got the markings of that Pro Championship race there, because Isaacson is really struggling, although he has made up ground very slowly really, but is in P3, but really needs to get in front of Herbenu and then hope Herbenu has a slight incident, but I really cannot see that happening. Looking down into the Pro-Am category, we see Deckens there, probably going to look at taking this win in the Pro-Ams at the moment. They're in P11th, was behind Jacob Behrens, but after a lunge of Behrens into turn number 2, really put paid to his race here today in P19th. Top of the AMs is David Gill, so this is going to be a good race for him to finish off. But Russell Fowler second there in the AMs, literally just needs to finish this race to secure his very first ARL AM Championship win here. So I'd imagine he's getting a little bit excited in that Mercedes at the moment if he realises what he needed to do at the start of this race.
Yeah, and when you get into that position, all you've got to do is just focus on your training, focus on the practice laps you've been able to put in around a circuit like this, and try to block out any of that outside noise, as it were. You've just got to keep yourself on the track. And believe me, folks, that is easier said than done. Urbano at the front of the field, growing that gap to about 1.6 seconds as we continue to watch Behrens closing in behind the Ferrari standard bearer here of Gavin Gardner. This gap pretty close, and they've got to watch out because that AM leader right now, David Gill, behind them, could pick up some pieces if these two tangle.
Yeah, certainly does. I mean, he's not going to have a chance to probably leapfrog that much, David Gill, from the top 2, but certainly will have some decent points. Certainly if he can get a few more positions, which is an option, as you can see in there, just at the back of this group of 4. You have Smart leading it, Grossman, Sorensen, Winnett, and then you have Gardner and Behrens there. So Gill has a chance to get Behrens, Gardner and Winnett if he manages or gets the opportunity to make them passing moves. But looking further up the field, Matthew Chris doing an excellent job at the moment, DJ, of defensive over Lucas Lang. Really not able to get past the BMW at the moment. So that BMW driver, Matthew Crisp, is just putting that car into positions that not giving Lucas Lang the opportunity to make the passing move.
Oh, but Lang's going to have a little bit of a look there coming through Thunder Valley, but it's not going to play out as they work their way through the carousel now, as Lang, always one of those drivers that will take advantage of any little mistake you make out on track. And if you as a driver want to minimize any of those mistakes, go ahead and check out Apex Racing Academy. With 29 data packs, you can get setups and track guides. It integrates perfectly with DRS, and you can sign up for a weekly coaching session to minimize those mistakes and maximize your performance out on track. That again is Apex Racing Academy. But there, as we continue to watch here, close enough, down 14 minutes left to go in this race. Lang trying to push ahead here a little bit, but not sure if he's going to be able to get it here going down into China Beach.
No, it's definitely not. At the moment, that Porsche seems to be lacking a little bit of grunt over the BMW. BMW seems to be the car that has the speed around here. Very good on the corners, good on the straights, and really good at taking the higher curbs, whereas the Porsche really does not like high curb corners. So struggling a little bit on that straight line speed, even with the slipstream that he might be getting, is unable to make that passing move on Crisp. But it looks a little bit that Crisp is getting a little bit ragged around some of the corners, so the opportunity may arise for Lucas Lang to take that P9 position away from Matthew Crisp.
Yeah, maybe Lang, ooh, little bit squirrely there coming into the braking zone, going down into the carousel, but you can see just how aggressive he's being, really clobbering the curbs, trying to get every advantage that he can. Here he's going to have a little bit of a half-hearted look down into turn one. I think that was more to just try to force Crisp offline a little bit. Question is if Lang's going to be able to carry enough speed there to be able to get the move going down into the keyhole. He certainly thinks he is. He's going to poke his nose to the inside, going to stay to the inside, now falls back in the line there. No mistake being made by Matthew Crisp. Some very, very good defensive driving from that BMW up in front.
Yeah, it certainly is. He just closes the door at the last minute. Lucas Lang is really going to have to put it all on the line here to make that passive move on Crisp. It gives him the opportunity on some of the corners, goes a little bit wide and takes a late entry, so Lucas Lang really needs to use the full power of them Porsche brakes and go as late as he can into a corner to try and put his nose up on the inside, because I think that's the only way that Lucas Lang is going to be able to get past Martin Crisp for that P9 position, as we currently watch on board the battle in front between Lang and Crisp from Martin Deckens.
Yeah, Deccan's really sitting here in the popcorn position with about 12 minutes to go. He's the one that I was kind of hoping, I think, that these two are going to get into each other just a little bit and maybe give him an opportunity to sneak his way up into the top 10, although Deccan's does have a nice, healthy lead there in the Pro-Am category. He really doesn't have to worry about too much, but I think being into the top 10 overall would make him feel good, as there is his closest competitor in that Pro-Am category, Nikolai Thrain, down 2 positions from Crisp, or from Deccan's, rather.
Yeah, he certainly is, and Deccan's at the moment, like you said, in that popcorn position, just watching a fight in between Crisp and Lang out on track. I mean, the rest of the field are quite close, but not close enough. But we look back on our only McLaren driver there in P23, Chris Daines, just coming up onto the back of Russ Fowler. I'm pretty sure Russ will gladly let the McLaren driver through at the most safest opportunity, knowing where he fully is in that championship. So, but Chris Daines down 10 positions, so not had the best of races here in Mid-Ohio.
No, he really hasn't. And, you know, this is one of those circuits here, Andy, that you love or you hate. You either get the rhythm and you find it and you absolutely fall in love with this quirky little circuit, or you just can't find the rhythm and you find yourself struggling every single time you go on by. And one driver who has certainly been able to fall in love with it here is Christoph Herbino. He's been able to pull that gap over Mark Fletcher to the tune of about 2 seconds, getting by some lap traffic there. He is just cooking around here.
It certainly is. You can see there on the timing tower, lap 34 is the one where he's made the real damage on the car, being nearly 0.2 of a second quicker. But Fletcher was catching him up on 32 and 33, probably realising that, and put the hammer down a little bit on 34. 35 and 36, he's taken 2 tenths out of a second out of him, but he's currently 2.2 seconds ahead of Fletcher, and very surprised that Fletcher was not able to go a couple of extra laps further than Herbinu, but that is iRacing, I suppose, at the end of the day. And unfortunately, I think Fletcher might have given up the ghost at the moment for that race win here tonight. But if an opportunity arises, certainly with these back markers coming into play for Herbinu, he'll gladly take the race win if it is given to him on the plate.
Yeah, I certainly think he will as well, but we will have to see. Only 10 minutes, let's actually call it what it is, 9 minutes left remaining here in this race. But the close battle here between Crisp and Lang continues on. Martin Decken still closing in as well. A little bit of sideways action there for Matthew Crisp, coming up and over the edge there, coming into Thunder Valley, but he's able to keep that BMW, that Alcantech NHR machine, closed in and driving very well, keeping that defensive line. And Andy, you know as well as I do, driving defensively for this long, it can absolutely take a massive mental toll on you.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, you know, Crisp has been defensive on Lang for a number of laps now. It's got to be taking his toll over Crisp, just constantly looking in his rear view mirrors, and all it takes is that one incident of looking in your rear view mirrors to see where Lang is, and you miss your braking area that makes that vital mistake. But we see here Deccan's looking on the inside there of Lang, and Lang just needs to be aware of that. With Deccan's behind, he's just ominously just waiting there for the opportunity, and that was nearly his opportunity to get past Lang at the moment. So Lang has dropped off a little bit off Crisp as Deckers decides he wants to play his hand.
Yes, he does, and that forces Lang to go a little bit defensive down into the corner, but nothing's going to come out on the other side as they work their way down through China Beach. A little bit of a pass here in the back. This is Gavin Gardner thinking about down to the inside of Stuart Wyness, but that's not going to play itself out, and they stay single file as well.
Yeah, so a lot of these battles, they've been battling each other for a long amount of time, but there's not really been that much of a position as Gardner just gives a little bit of a tap to Stuart Wyness saying, come on, hurry along, I'm just here behind you. But then you've got behind you the very fast Jacob Behrens in P19. So these 4 cars still in the same position as we last left them, but extremely aggressive with each other, trying to make that opportunity. But like you said, around this track is extremely hard to make the pass and move, certainly around the part of the track that they're currently on, the second half. The opportunity comes now when they come out of the last corner, coming through the first up to turn number 2, and then the long run down to turn number 4. So they're the really main overtaking positions, but the slipstream around here is not as strong as I thought it would be, DJ.
No, nor I. Would have expected to have a little bit more here, but I just don't think they're reaching really terminal velocity to make it work. We focus here, though, on Thomas Cope, who's having to play a little bit of defense from Tom Dadswell there as they go down into China Beach. BMW versus Mercedes right now. Cope down 4 positions from the start of the race, unfortunately, there for the Olympus Esports driver. He just not having the race, and this is kind of the story of his season. Looking relatively good, and then just falling off just a little bit.
It is, but you can see in the timing tower there, we normally see some big gains by drivers, but you can see the single-digit gains, and the majority of them less than 5 position gains from where they actually started from. So it just shows you how hard this track is to make a pass and move on. A lot of these drivers literally playing the defensive cards often around this track, and once you get a car that does that, it's extremely hard to make a pass and move without putting yourself in jeopardy of either a spin-off or hitting into another car. So, you know, it's that risk versus reward move, and I think Lucas Lang is probably thinking, I need to start looking at that, because I've been stuck behind this BMW for about the past 20 minutes, not being able to make the move. And the position at the moment he seems to be able to make it is up here into turn 2, and what he needs to do, I think, is just a show and tell on Matthew Chris like he's doing now, but then try and dart down his inside, because Chris gives a little bit of room on the entrance into that corner. So maybe an opportunity, but this, where it was only 3 cars, has almost all of a sudden turned into a 5-car battle for this P9 position.
And I think Lucas Lang is tired of waiting around here. You saw him dip a toe down into the grass. Now he's going to try to go to the outside of China Beach, but that's going to get him into the grass once again there. And now it's going to be Martin Deckens trying to look to attack, but running a little bit wide there was Matthew Crisp. Lang going to try to take it around the outside there of Madness. It's going to switch back to him here as he comes through the corner. Can Lang pull this off as they come through the right-hander? Yes, he can. How did he do that?
I think that was just, you know what, I've had enough of staying behind you, Chris. I'm just going to make the move. You see him try to make the move into turn number 4, China Beach. It's just about managed to keep it on track side by side through turn 5, but then had that outside line, fast line through turn number 6, which gave him the inside for the next S's, which Matthew Chris got slightly pushed offline, which meant he was a little bit slower, but great passing move there by Lucas Lang. A long time coming, really, for the Porsche driver, managing to get himself up to P9.
Yeah, really, really fantastic run there for him as now we watch in single file order as everybody works their way back down towards the keyhole. A little bit of a poke to the inside there for Deckens, it looked like, but he's not going to be able to get that move done on Crisp. And look at just how much Lucas Lang has been able to scamper away at the front of this field, leaving these all in the dust. But here comes Deckens. Is he going to be able to have a little bit of an attack going down into China Beach? I think he's just maybe a half a car length too back, but he doesn't think so. He's going to go for the send, the 227, and Chris denies him there, saying, I don't want to lose 2 positions in 2 laps.
No, definitely not in the same corner. Chris just slamming the door on Deckens, but Deckens has just opened himself up, and look like Frame getting the move done, pushing Deckens out, getting that move done well through Madness, and luckily Deckens didn't lose too many positions through there because he was really offline there coming through that S's, but Nikolai Frame really picking his opportunity well, realising that Martin Deckens had overextended himself trying to get past Matthew Crisp.
a little bit of side by side there between Lasse Sorensen and Kieran Smart. Smart going to be the loser going down into the carousel. That's going to send him back down through the order just a little bit. As here we've got double wide coming down the main straightaway. That's going to be Grossman trying to piece his way through on Martin Deckens. He's going to get that move done.
Oh, that was relatively easy there from Grossman on Deckens. I think Deckens just gave him the position there, realizing that Grossman had a really quick exit out of that last corner. And Deckens here going for another move, coming into turn number 2, getting that inside line, slightly tipping the back there of, who was that? That was Nikolai, no it wasn't, it was Kjetil Larsen. He hit there, slightly coming around turn number 2, so barging his way through. So Grossman on a charge as always.
Yeah, and he did not look happy about that. You saw him flash at his headlights as now Deckens had a little bit of a look down to the inside, and we've only got 2.5 minutes left to go here in this race, and you can certainly tell by these drivers' mentalities, they are getting their elbows out and fighting for it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just such hard work to try and gain that 1 or 2 position out. Oh, Tom Dadswell there having a little bit of an incident, obviously trying to pass Thomas Cope as we watch here, see what's happened. Probably trying a little bit too hard, coming through, just losing it slightly as the car just spins out, just pushing it a little bit too hard. And unfortunately, that battle with Thomas Cope is now gone, but didn't lose any other positions, but it's not that far behind Lucas Lang at the moment.
No, it's not, as we've got about 1.5 minutes left to go here in this race. I think it's 2 laps to go at the line. We follow Martin Deckens here right in the middle of this big gaggle of cars that have been fighting tooth and nail as they come down into the corner. Grossman looking a little bit aggressive here on the back of Matthew Crisp. Is he going to send another big move down into China Beach? We saw him do it last time around. He gets a pretty decent run there off at the keyhole. He's going to be hoping is back behind him. David Gill for Fast and Fuelless wants a position, and he gets it from Alexander Scarrett.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's all been go these last 2 laps here. It's amazing. And I'm just looking at the gap between Lang and Crisp. Obviously, Lang passed Crisp 2 laps earlier, and he's already nearly 4 seconds ahead of Crisp. So it just shows how Crisp was holding up the rest of the field, and it very much is. You look at Crisp and look at all the cars behind him. They're all queued up. Grossman, Larsen, Stefan Sorensen, all queued up behind, just trying to make that move. So Crisp seems to be the slow one in the group, but he's the one out in front that they all need to try and pass. And we know this track is extremely hard to make that passing move. You see Grossman there going off extremely wide. I don't know if he was got pushed out, but just going off track corner here, managing to keep it, but now finds himself at the back of this group.
Yeah, finds himself back there. He's going to have himself a world of trouble as the white flag does indeed wave for these drivers one more time around this 2.25-mile circuit here in central Ohio as they go, trying to see what they are able to get. It looks a little spaced out for a move down into the keyhole for any of them, but if they can get a good launch here off of the corner as the clock hits 1 hour, they'll be able to have a good shot. Here we come a little bit farther back in the back. This is Gavin Gardner playing offense and defense at the same time, as that's going to be Barron's trying to go around the outside of him, and they're going to be into a straight drag race coming out of the keyhole.
Yeah, definitely has got that inside line, but that's where you see the power of that Mercedes just streaking away as we move back to the front, as it's a bit of a saunt here for Christopher Herbenew, and he takes this race win, and with it, the Pro Championship overall. Mark Fletcher come over with a well-deserved second, really putting it to him, and Isaacson, you know, it's what ifs after that second race in Road America. Could be extremely close to Herben, who made it a little bit more of a competition, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. But that's an extremely strong finish for Isaacson to get second overall in the championship. And Dadswell coming under a lot of pressure here from Lucas Lang, who's been on a real charge of the second half of this race, but unable to make that position pay. And we look back to this big gaggle of cars, and Matthew Crisp managing to keep at the front of it, with Larsen, Stecken, Sorensen and Smart coming over the line in quick succession.
A little bit of a pass there in the back. I believe that was Russ Fowler being able to get by Ronald Grossman as they came to the line, and that's going to secure 22nd overall and second in the AM category there for Fowler, as Grossman will cross over in 23rd, waiting for the last couple of drivers to cross over here at this point, including Thomas Jazz, who's now going to cross over there for 24th overall.
Yeah, still waiting for one driver, Haig, who's not had the best of laps. One lap down from the championship, from the leader, but will still score points at the moment. So not been the best day at the races for Gordon Haig there in P27. But I mean, what a great second half after the pit stop to this round at Mid-Ohio. Extremely hard to make them passing moves, but a lot of the drivers literally putting it all on the line to try and just gain that one extra position. It was amazing.
You absolutely love to see it, and that kind of fervor is really what I think Mid-Ohio certainly does bring out here. It's absolutely incredible stuff to be able to watch. It's why it's one of my favorite circuits on the iRacing service, and indeed across the motor racing spectrum. But that is going to bring us to our final finishing order here for the day, I believe, as it was Christoph Herbino able to take the win and the championship up at the top of the field. Mark Fletcher coming home behind him. Still up in the pro category, Nils-Erik Isaacson and Carl Winkler, followed by Mike Paluch in the top 5. Thrain was able to take the victory in the pro AM category, followed by Martin Deckens and Lasse Sorensen. And then back down to the AM category, it was David Gill, Russ Fowler, and Dominic Smerrick. And it looks like we've got a couple of interviews here. And first and foremost, it looks like we have our AM class victor, David Gill, ready to join with us. And David, a little bit of a chaotic race for you, probably just because of the nature of Mid-Ohio, but it looked like your win in that AM category was never in doubt.
Oh, thank you very much. I wasn't so sure. I had a lot of battling going on and a lot of close racing, probably more than I've ever had, but I worked hard for the one this week because I knew I needed to beat Russ on track. So yeah, really pleased, kept it clean and got a decent result.
Well, talk to me a little bit about sort of the back and forth you've got to have a little bit between just keeping focused on the racing at hand and then that mental calculation that you have of making sure that you're able to keep ahead of him. What was that like? How much were you really keeping an eye on where Russ was, and how much were you focused on your race?
A little bit. I knew I needed to beat him. I don't know if I've done enough to come third in the championship. That's what I was really pushing for, but I knew I needed to get a number of places. So today wasn't straightforward because I couldn't just beat him on track and that was it. I knew I had to put some cars between us. So I was out there battling with the Pro-Ams trying to keep some points between us. But yeah, really good, clean, fair racing. So really enjoyed it out there today.
Well, as we look ahead to what we presume will be next season, I have to ask you, are you going to be back? And if so, is there a track you'd like to visit?
Oh, wow. I seem to do quite well here and at Barber and, yeah, gosh, I don't know. I'm not sure I might jump to the single seaters next season. I'm really not sure. So, but I'll be back in Apex League for sure.
Well, fantastic, David. We can't wait to see you there. But is there anybody you would like to thank for this AM class victory here today?
Yeah, thanks all the guys at Reckless Abandon and my family for just putting up with continuous sim racing practice. So I really appreciate the time. Cheers. Cheers,
David. That was David Gill, your AM class victor. And Andy, I think we've caught up with Jacob Behrens.
Yeah, Jacob, welcome to the box. So, bit of a struggle, not only for yourself, but for a lot of your IGL Coatings teammate out here. We saw you racing up at the front end of the grid with a slight mistake, maybe an over-ambitious move into turn number 2. Just take us through this race from your point of view.
It's been really difficult because, well, last month I haven't been able to practice a lot and I never got comfortable with the car around here, never got comfortable with the track. So it was just a struggle fest, and that move wasn't my best move. It was over-ambitious, but that's life.
Yeah, but just looking at your championship, you came into this round 102 points ahead of your nearest rival. I mean, you pretty much sold up the championship before you even took to the grid. So were you aware of that, and did that sort of change your outcome on the race, thinking, you know what, I'm just going to have a little bit of fun in this round?
You know what, the only thing I've been thinking for about a week is you saying those sweet, sweet words. That I'm champion.
I won't deny you, mate. Pro-Am Championship for Season 4, Jacob Behrens. I mean, you've just been exceptional this season. Started off a bit a bit tentative, but then something switched in the car and in you, and you were literally on fire mixing it up with the pros. I mean, just take us through your season as a whole.
It just feels so good. Oh man, oh, it feels so good. Yeah, first round Silverstone, that was bottom of bottoms, and then you know, just working it up, and then I don't know, I just spent a lot of time driving the car, and then just magic button just clicked, and it just went like hell.
I mean, we've certainly seen it and seen your rise meteorically into the stratosphere in terms of the points and mixing up, and obviously getting a overall race win at Fuji. You know, it's got to be good for yourself, and I know you're super excited, which is always good to hear. And on that, so I won't keep you too long, so you can go and celebrate with your teammates. Before we do let you go, mate, would you like to give a shout out to anybody?
Shout out to iRacing, iRacing, and Sandnes Trafikkskole. Of course, I think I said it every time, except from one. They're the ones that make this possible, and a special shout out to Alexander Skara. I'm currently borrowing his wheelbase, well, his old wheelbase and wheel, and I'm pretty confident saying that he is one of the key players that managed to make this possible, really.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks for showing us how to drive the car as a Pro-Am. And I pretty much think that your status as a Pro-Am won't be there for much longer. And hopefully we'll see you back for Season 5 mixing it with the pros. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
See, there's Jacob Behrens having a little bit of a struggle on the last race, but had that much of a lead, DJ. It was just a round that he was just going to enjoy, I think.
Yeah, I think it was as well, and now we are going to be able to catch up with our third place in the Pro-Am category, Lasse Sorensen, and looked like a pretty chaotic race there for you, especially in that last about 15 minutes. It looked like everything was firing off.
Yeah, it was a very difficult race today. I had a good week in the officials, in both fixed and open class, in fact. And I qualified P8 today. Was super happy with my qualifying. And the first couple of races, I had Claessens in front of me, and he had 2 half spins, forcing me also into half spins. So after that, I was struggled so badly with my tires, so I couldn't keep up the pace. So I tried the pit strategy, and after the pit, I just calmed down, didn't push my tires at all, and I did catch up to the group in front. So I had a hope to also pass Deckens today, but I didn't find the gap.
Well, I mean, you know, you talk about not being able to find the gap here. How hard was it to really overtake around Mid-Ohio? It looked like it was particularly difficult just for everybody.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. You have more or less 2 options. That's into turn 2, where you have possibility to go on the inside if they is understeering to the outside and take a wide line, and also over the kink, I think it's turn 10 or something. You can also push inside there, but it's super risky. So yeah, you stay in the queue and just hope that someone miss out in front so you can pass them.
Well, sometimes that's the best strategy away the round, but I'm going to ask the same question that I asked David Gill. Can we expect to see you back next season? And are there any tracks you would love to see on this calendar?
For sure getting back. Now it's on Porsche Cup coming up in the National Series. But after that it's going to be GT3 for sure, and also the F3 Series. For tracks, I hope some more open tracks and Grand Prix tracks, in fact, getting more place to racing instead of this like this track today. It's so difficult in the queue, but the track is very fun to drive, but maybe not the right track for the GT3.
Well, all right, there you heard it, folks. That is exactly what he wants. And Lasse, anybody you want to thank here for this run today?
Yeah, first and foremost, of course, you guys and Apex for making all this happen and make these races for us. And also you guys for the broadcast and commentary. And of course, all my teammates in the EGL. I have had quite some progress with our practice throughout the season, and our sponsors, Sande Trafikkskole and EGL Coatings.
Well, fantastic. Lasse, congratulations again on a great run here today and on a great season.
Thank you so much. See you.
All right. See you around. And that was Lasse Sorensen there. And I believe, Andy, you've caught up with Russell Fowler. Andy, I think you may be muted there, buddy.
Oh, I am indeed. So, Russell, forever the bridesmaid, never the bride, but that has all changed here today. I do believe that you are now our AM Championship for Season 4. Literally, I've just been looking at the points. You were 9 points ahead of David Gill, and David Gill just managed to get 6 points over you in that race, so that puts you into first place overall. Jump in at Christopher Otto. How does that feel finally to win an AM Championship?
Oh, well, fantastic. Obviously, it's mixed feelings really, because obviously Christopher was the kind of class of the AM field, and he sort of hasn't turned up for the last couple of races. But having said that, I think he's probably more of a pro-am driver anyway. So listen, Andy, I'll take it. I'll take the win. I'm quite happy.
Yeah, that's not the excuses why you haven't won. You've won, so just say that. But David there in that race really put it to you. Did you realise how close David was to you in the championship, and did you know what you needed to do to try and clinch the AM Championship overall?
No, I didn't realise actually. I thought I had a bit of a gap, but obviously not. But I mean, he's put together some great races. These last 3 or 4 races, he's been really on his game. So I'm kind of not surprised. I think he had some unlucky results at the beginning of the season. Had that gone differently, yeah, he would have been up there. But yeah, I'm really happy. That race was actually quite quiet for me, really. I think I was next car up the road was 2 seconds ahead. Car behind me was 2 seconds behind, and that was pretty much 3/4 of my race, really. Although it looked very tasty for the guys in front on the last couple of laps, and I was hoping I might pick up the pieces if there were any incidents, but there weren't. But yeah, it would have been nice to join in with that. But yeah, the race was fine. Good steady race for me, really.
Yeah, I mean, season you've been quite consistent. You started off really strong with the race win in Silverstone. You had a little bit of a blip sort of mid-season, but then sort of picked it back up towards the end of the season and went on a real charge. Obviously David there was hot on your heels, trying to push you all the way, but you kept your cool, and you finally have that illustrious first place trophy coming your way in the AM Championship. So finally there in probably about 10 Apex seasons you've done, so you've finally done it, mate. But obviously next season, I mean, hopefully we're going to have you back in the Pro-Ams next season, being the champion. And DJ's been asking the question to the other drivers, so I'll ask it to you. Is there any tracks that you would like to see the addition of in next season?
Oh, blimey, there's a question. I like these tight, windy ones that no one else seems to like. So, places like Mosport, is it, in Canada? That's always good fun. And then there's the Spas and the Suzukas. I mean, just classic tracks, really. So, do you know what? I'm pretty happy. I don't think I've done enough racing to have, strong favourite tracks yet. But I'll take it as it comes, Andy. Chuck what you like at us. It's fine.
Well, congratulations, mate, in your final AM Championship after many years of trying. Well deserved. Before we let you go, mate, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, as usual, shout out to my wife and my boys for putting up with my practice, that sort of stuff. Shout out to Tom and Performance Link Esports. Have been very supportive. And of course you guys, particularly you, Andy. Well, I always enjoy our chat, so thank you very much, and see you next season.
Yeah, definitely will. And congratulations again, Russ. Well deserved.
Cheers. Thanks.
There was Russ Fowler, our ARM Championship. After many years of trying, DJ, perseverance pays off and finally gets that illustrious or elusive ARM Championship win. But, I mean, overall, it's just been a win for the championship itself. Still going strong after 4 seasons, and there's still the competitive nature in all 3 classes.
Yeah, it really, really and truly is absolutely incredible stuff from all of our drivers across the entire season. And sadly, that is going to bring not only today's broadcast, but another season of ARL GT3 Trophy to an end. On behalf of myself, DJ Clark, my partner here in the booth, Andy Thompson, and our director and producer behind the scenes, Jamie Fluke, it has been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action out on track. But until we see you out on the track, thanks for watching.